It's the day before the Derby here at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky. And today, for the 117th time, we contest the Distaff Derby, as some of the nation's top 3-year-old fillies meet in the historic Kentucky Oaks. And hello again, everyone. I'm Chris Lincoln. Welcome here on ESPN to the start of our 2 days of Derby coverage on this 1991 year, the 117th Run for the Roses. We'll be here with 2 hours for you live tomorrow, starting at 2:30. Live coverage of 3 races leading up to the Kentucky Derby. Working with us today, Tom Durkin and Dan Issel. We have quite a race card for you. Let's take a look. It starts with the Early Times Turf Classic featuring the champion It's All Greek to Me. And, of course, the 9th race here, the Kentucky Oaks, the 117th meeting there. Let's take a look at the conditions now. The 3-year-old fillies tested at 1 1/8 miles. The purse $250,000 added. The weather, well, it's a bit on the cloudy side this afternoon. We have forecast, by the way, of possible rain on Derby Day tomorrow. But right now, a fast racetrack this afternoon. And joining me now, the man who will be calling the races for us this afternoon. He'll be here this fall for the Breeders' Cup at Churchill Downs. Tom Durkin, and, well, it's not Breeders' Cup we're thinking about now. It's the Classics.
Well, the Triple Crown, with all its attendant fame and fortune, sometimes the 3-year-old division is referred to as racing's glamour division. Well, today we have the 3-year-old fillies going in the Oaks, and I suppose you could call them racing's glamour girls. For this year's division of 3-year-old fillies is fairly glamorous, and they're very talented. Headed by Meadow Star, the undefeated filly against fillies. She lost only once, and that was to Colts. We'll be seeing her a little bit later this month at Belmont Park. Today we're going to see 2 superior fillies. One is owned by music's king of rap, MC Hammer, and his family, and the other is trained by Dwayne Lucas, who seems to win this race every year. And as a matter of fact, I think Dwayne can rap pretty well himself. Let's take a look at the field for the Oaks. Brian Mayberry sends out a pair of solid, proven graded stakes performers in Gardengale, and if you could see me now, Naley Finn will be one of the longest prices on the board. Private Treasure, second in last year's Breeders' Cup for juvenile fillies. Till Forbid will be a big price this afternoon. Lite Light, owned by MC Hammer and family. And if you'll forgive the pun, it's pretty hard to rap her record. She is the favorite today. Sweet Sarita will be a long price. Risen Colony, trained by the Damon Runyon-esque Johnny Campo. With all probability, she's won 4 of 5. She'll be the second choice today. Her only loss was to Lite Light at Oaklawn and Polish Holiday. Nick Zito trains. He will tighten the girth on her this afternoon and tighten the girth on Strike the Gold in the Derby tomorrow.
All right, Tom, let's take a look now at the most famous racetrack in the world and the route for the fillies.
The route for the fillies has been run over this storied race course for 116 years. Pretty good run into that first turn, better than an 1/8 of a mile. First turn here at Churchill, by the way, is just a tad sharper than the second one. They continue their run down the backstretch. Today, the Oaks field will have to deal with the distraction of fans in the infield. This is the first time the infield has been open on Oaks Day. Then that top of the storied stretch here at Churchill Downs, 1,234 feet. Very long, sometimes referred to as Heartbreak Lane.
Well, let's start meeting now some of these leading ladies for our Kentucky Oaks, as we'll also meet our Kentucky horsemen. Down to the paddock now, Churchill Downs. Here's Dan Issel.
Thank you, Chris. You know, for about the last decade, the road to the winner's circle of the Kentucky Oaks has run right through the barn of Dwayne Lucas. He's won this race 4 times in the last 9 runnings, including the last 2 years in a row. Whether he has the long shot or a favorite, the Oaks is a race that Lucas really points to.
It's a prestigious race. You know, if you really talk to the breeders in Kentucky, if they couldn't win the Kentucky Derby, certainly the Oaks would be their second choice. That's the one they all want. And it's been good to us.
This year, Lucas's big gun is With All Probability, a daughter of Mr. Prospector. She won her first 4 in a row, all in handy fashion, including this romp over stablemate Fancy Ribbons in the Bonnie Miss at Gulfstream. But most recently, With All Probability was no match for Lite Light in the Fantasy at Oaklawn. But Lucas is looking for revenge in the Oaks.
Well, I think we'll reverse that. I really do. I like our horse, and we've had good luck upsetting the big ones here, too. We beat Devonna Dale here with Blush with Pride, and we beat Go for One last year with Seaside Attraction. I didn't like the trip in the Fantasy. I thought we really played into Lite Light's hands. We took way back off it, went a very slow half and even a worse 3/4. And then we tried to run through the stretch and play her game, and that's not our filly style. So I think with Pat Day and knowing the track like he does and knowing our filly, we'll get a realistic pace, and I think we'll look better.
And if Lucas's filly does improve, it figures to be at the expense of the Jerry Hollendorfer-trained Lite Light, owned by a group that also has horses in the Lucas barn.
Well, yes, you know, we have the Hammer Group, you know, that own Lite Light with MC and his brothers and his father. And they went together. Jerry Hollendorfer made that deal and helped put together the Lite Light purchase. And so, therefore, they felt they were somewhat obligated to let Jerry have it. And that's fine. He's done a real good job and everything. We have some other horses for them. So, you know, we're going to have a lot of fun and kidding in the paddock because I know them well and I know how they feel. But we're going to try to upset them. And maybe if we whip them enough, we'll get the filly.
Well, Wayne might be dreaming about having Lite Light in his barn, but for right now, she's firmly entrenched in the barn of trainer Jerry Hollendorfer. And right now, we're going to go back up to Chris.
And among the Twin Spires with the head man at Churchill Downs, President Tom Maker. Tom, looking around the infield open for Oaks Day, and it looks like a record crowd. I understand the numbers are already up.
Well, we're considerably up after last year. I think we had about 65,000. This year, we've got at least 75,000 here. We'll bet over $8 million. It's a record day for us, and I think it's a record day for racing. I mean, Churchill Downs provides sort of a focus for racing in the spring, and throughout the country with our inter-tracking and everything else that we're doing, it's racing is on the move again.
How about the projections for Derby Day? What if I want to get a ticket tomorrow?
Well, you're late. Chris, you might have a chance to get in, but no, we're sold out in terms of fixed seats, but of course they'll be in the infield. You can come here and for $20 get in the infield and have a great time.
I've got to ask him to switch hats now. You are the president of the Thoroughbred Racing Associations. Have a new member to welcome.
Right. Hollywood Park joined us this year, and we're delighted to have them with us. And so we have every major racing association in the United States joining us. And the TRA and all of its member tracks are accomplishing a lot and have accomplished a lot over the last year. So.
A record day on Oaks Day. We hope to make it a record Derby Day as well tomorrow. Tom Maker, president of Churchill Downs, visiting with us. We'll be back with more of our coverage of Kentucky Oaks Day, the day before the Derby in Louisville. The Breeders' Cup is pleased to present this week's bonus race coverage here at Churchill Downs, home of the year's Breeders' Cup, November 2nd, 1991. Today's bonus race is the first leg of the Early Times Triple Turf Classic, featuring the Turf Classic here at Churchill Downs. And then the day before the Preakness, the Dixie Handicap at Pimlico. The day before the Belmont, the Manhattan in New York. Any horse that sweeps this three-race series gets a $1 million bonus. Here's this afternoon's race conditions for the Early Times Turf Classic. A Grade 3 event in its fifth running. $150,000 at it. They go 1.1 miles on the turf. 4-year-olds and up. Let's meet the field. It started as 12. We've had one scratch. Opening verse and Vaguely Hidden, part of the entry of Alan Paulson at 2-1, the second choice. Opening verse, career earnings of almost $900,000. Continuing on with the field now. Some big prices. Rushing Raj, as you see there. Cozine Prince, Pirate Army at 5-1 with Jerry Bailey. Defensive play from Sugar McGahee stable. Chris Antley at 10-1. Shy Tom at 19-1. Now it's the champion. It's All Greek to Me. High weight, 123 pounds. The favorite at 7-5. And It's All Greek to Me, $82 shy of becoming racing's newest millionaire. Won the Breeders' Cup Mile and is here to check out the course he'll run over for the Breeders' Cup in 1991 this fall. Now to Tom Durkin for the call of this fifth Early Times Turf Classic. By the way, this field has earned more than $4.8 million combined. As you see him head to the gate, Tom Durkin with the call.
And they're in the gate, and they're off. And down on the inside, Pedro the Fool veers out of the start, rushing with Rushing Raj. In the middle of the pack, Cozine Prince is there. It's All Greek to Me is pinched back, and he's jostled about in between horses. And on the far outside, it's Vaguely Hidden. Rushing Raj now is up to take the early lead. He's taking the initiative. No one is anxious for it. And long shot first rate under a firm hold on the outside. Pedro the Fool is saving ground all the way. That's the gray Cozine Prince in cramped quarters in between horses. Vaguely Hidden with a smooth run on the outside. It's All Greek to Me running a bit rankly as they round the first turn. He's about 5.5 off the lead now. An opening verse is tucked inside him. Then farther back, it's Lotus Pool. Defensive play has a clear run on the outside. Pirate Army is pinned down inside horses, and Shy Tom trails the field. The first quarter went in 23 and 4/5 seconds, and the half in a moderate 48 flat. There goes 99-1, first rate on the outside to challenge Rushing Raj, and those two now heads apart with a half-mile to run. It's 3.5. Pedro the Cool on the inside, racing in third position. Cosine's Prince is fourth, vaguely hidden in perfect striking position, 5 lengths off the lead. The Turf champion, It's All Greek to Me, is racing 6th on the outside. He's yet to move. Now he's beginning to pick it up. He's 7 lengths from the leaders. Opening first follows him around the far turn. First rate on the outside. Rushing Raj toward the rail, and there still stride for stride. Vaguely hidden is just in behind the lead, racing third, and It's All Greek to Me rallies, and here he comes with his run on the extreme outside. Opening first is also kicking in. It's All Greek to Me with a powerful burst of speed in this stretch. Accelerates and takes the lead. He's under a hand ride, leading out by a length and a half. And on the outside, Opening Burst is coming at him. Opening Burst putting pressure on the outside, and Opening Burst does it! Last stride, he nips the champion. It's All Greek to Me by a nose, and it's 3 lengths back to Pedro the Cool.
And the time, 1:47.1, establishes a new course, obviously a new stakes record in this 5th running of the Early Times Turf Classic. Opening Burst just getting by the champion, It's All Greek to Me, at the wire. It's All Greek to Me, though, was second money. Becomes racing's newest millionaire. Opening Burst moves very close to the $1 million mark. Pedro the Cool was third. The 1/8 exacta returns $15.20. And you see in the winner's circle, Chris McCarron, the rider on Opening Burst. We should point out that Opening Burst had a 7-pound weight break from It's All Greek to Me, the champion. Presentations being made. Rick Poville there to present the trophy to Alan Paulson, Senior Brand Director of Early Times. Here are our horses now for the Kentucky Oaks as they've arrived in the paddock. And we'll return to our Kentucky Oaks Day coverage here on ESPN from Churchill Downs in Louisville.
Race. Let's talk about Garden Gal first. She's raced against the very best in her division, and yet the only time she's been off the board in her career was her last start in the Ashland.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed in that race, but after I looked at it, after the race was over, I didn't think it was that bad a race after all. She only got beat 3 lengths, and it's hard for horses to carry different tracks around with them. I didn't think it was a bad race. As you say, she's run with the best in the country. She hasn't been able to handle Lite Light so far. I'm hoping this is the day that she gets that done.
The other filly, If You Could See Me Now, on the other hand, had a great prep race at Keeneland.
Yeah, she runs hard all the time, and she, interestingly enough, has beaten Lite Light. She beat her one time. Because Lite Light had some... Oh, that's it right there?
That's the Beaumont that we're looking at right there.
Good. I'm glad you guys show me winning races. I like that.
That's her on top.
This was a very, very good race. And I contemplated about running her back in the Ashland, but I had kind of mapped out a campaign and had this race picked for her and the other race picked for Garden Gal, but looks like I may have made a mistake.
Now, you've got 2 in there. Will you use one as a rabbit, or will they both run their races?
Well, I'm trying to win with either one of them, and I have 2 good riders, and I kind of leave that stuff up to the riders. It depends on how the race develops. I'm sure there'll be plenty of early speed in there, and if it comes up that way, it'll be all right.
Well, best of luck to you.
I appreciate it very much.
Back up to you, Chris.
Thank you, Dan. You look at some of the pretty fillies here in the crowd here on the Ladies' Day at the Churchill Downs the day before the Kentucky Derby. Well, you know, the world of thoroughbred racing lost one of its best this past week. On April 25th, the death of trainer Lars Brera of heart failure in California. Lars Brera is the subject of our special Kentucky Oaks Claiborne Look Back. Hall of Famer Lars Brera worked some of his special magic right here at Churchill Downs. He's most famous, of course, for his 1978 Derby winner of Fern, on his way to being racing's last Triple Crown champion. But he also won the Roses in 1976 with Bull Forbes. And this race, the Kentucky Oaks, also added to Brera's training legend when he took back-to-back runnings in 1986 with his champion Tiffany Last. And here in 1987, the long shot Bury Your Belief, the daughter of Believe It, went off at odds of 8-1 as the Budweiser long shot.
Bury Your Belief in command. Here comes Super Cook on the outside with Cordero for a late charge. Hometown Queen tries to gain toward the inside, but with 70 yards to go, it's Bury Your Belief, trained by Laz Barrera, ridden by Jose Santos, winning it by 3.
Laz Barrera, where we remember him best, in the winner's circle.
This look back has been brought to you by Claiborne Farm. where for more than a century, a great record reflects our experience.
Seems hard to believe that just a year ago, Loughborough was center stage here for the Kentucky Derby with his unbeaten colt, Mr. Frisky, the post-time favorite for the 116th run for the Roses. Our condolences go out to his wife, Carmen. His two sons and daughter that survive him. The Sport of Kings has lost one of its best.
Paddock at Churchill Downs, and joining me now, Richard Lundy, the trainer of Opening Verse, who was just victorious in the Early Times Turf Classic. Dick, were you a little upset when you saw, it's all Greek to me, pull away a couple of lengths in the stretch?
Yeah, we had a little bit of a rough trip the first part of it and got shuffled back, and he got a pretty good jump on us. I was a bit concerned we weren't going to have enough stretch to catch him in.
Are your plans now to go on to the next leg of the triple turf?
Oh, yeah, we'll go to Maryland. This horse seems to be doing real good right now, so as long as he comes out real good, we'll go right on with it.
Does this victory take any of the sting out of losing the probable Derby favorite, Denard?
No, not really. You know, how many times can you come here with a favorite for the Derby and get knocked out the week before? So,
well, congratulations on the Early Times.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
It was a really nice race.
Okay. Back up to you, Chris.
All right, Dan, congratulations, Dick Lundy and Alan Paulson. Now let's get back to the Kentucky Oaks. And really, when you talk about the leading filly in the country, you talk about Lite Light. She has reeled off 3 Greatest Stakes victories in a row. Las Virgenes, the Grade 1 Santa Anita Oaks, and the Grade 2 Fantasy Stakes. She's won over $722,000. But if you think Lite Light is a hit, you ought to meet her owners. And Tom Dirk is going to introduce them to you right now.
There's a new group rising fast on the thoroughbred charts this year. Oaktown Stables, owned by the Burrell family of Oakland. And one member of the family is already a big hit.
Can't touch this. Why you standing there, man? You can't touch this. Yo, sound the bell. School is in, sucker. You can't touch this.
MC Hammer's father, Louis Burrell, and brother Louis Burrell Jr. are the movers in Oaktown Stables. According to Louis Sr., attending the races has long been a family affair.
Well, you know, they've been around for quite a while also, because as teenagers, I used to bring them to the track with me. In fact, that's the only way I could get to the track on weekends was to bring them with me.
Louis Burrell's lifelong dream of owning horses became a reality last year, starting with claimers and working up to Lite Light. Along the way, their chief advisor has been trainer Jerry Hollendorfer.
Jerry made our first 2 claims. He told us things that horsemen, that owners should know about purchasing horses, about just a number of things that maybe other people wouldn't have told us.
And Hollendorfer has enjoyed the lively nature of his new clients.
They're very fun to have around, never a dull moment. They live a very dynamic lifestyle, to say the least, and it's been a lot of fun for me, and I've learned a lot from them and they from me being around each other.
Yes, it's been fun for all, but to the Burrells, the stable is serious business.
You know, when we first started this business, I think most of the people thought that, well, the Burrells have found a toy, something to play with. They didn't know that we were going to approach this business the same as we have done with Busted Production.
Busted Productions is the family-owned company headed by Louis Burrell Jr. Busted and its joint venture with Capitol Records currently have 18 artists under contract, including Hammer. He's currently on tour in Europe, and that's where Louis Jr. would be, except for Lite Light.
It's exciting enough to keep me away from Europe when Hammer's over the 20 right now. And not too many things can keep me away from Hammer dates.
Louis is Lite Light's biggest fan, but he's hardly a spectator when it comes to the economics of racing.
I expect to make a lot of money in the horse racing business. I wouldn't be here. It's not a pleasure sport for me. I can also, if I want to get into investing in sports, and there are a lot of team sports out there that I think we can make an investment in. This right here, I think, is a better return. I think the longevity is better, and we'll see at the end. But if you want to kind of narrow it down to, well, Louis, do you think that you're going to make a lot of money? I think I'm going to make a substantial amount of money in the horse racing business.
And how about Hammer? Will we see him at the races this summer?
He cannot wait to get back. He's going to miss the Preakness. Media plan will be running the Preakness, but I think he'll be able to be here to watch the big one. If Lite Light wins this race, we think she's going to, then we're going to surprise everybody and put her in a race against the boys. And I'll let you know that race and what that's going to be when it happens.
Stay tuned.
Riders are up in the paddock for the 117th running of the Kentucky Oaks. And there you see the star, Lite Light, at even money. We're back at Churchill Downs. The fillies have just come on the racetrack. The crowd starting to react as they see the field for the 117th running of the Kentucky Oaks. Let's introduce them to you now. The first part of the Siegel entry. This is Garden Gal. Consistent filly on the board, 9 of 10. Won the Los Centinela, second to Lite Light at the Las Virgenes and the Santa Anita Oaks. Recently fourth in the Ashland. Garden Gal, by the way, is finished behind Light Light or the champion Meadow Star in 6 races. Gary Stevens, the rider, the nation's leading money rider. 1A is If You Could See Me Now. The other part of the entry, trained by Brian Mayberry. Just won the Beaumont at Keeneland by 5. Third behind Light Light and her stablemate Garden Gal in the Oaks at Santa Anita. Martin Pedroza, the rider from Panama. Number 2, this is Naley's Pin. Won the Devona Dale Stakes at the Fairgrounds. Third in the Fantasy. Second in the Fairgrounds Oaks. The rider, Chris Antley, led the nation in wins in 1989. The 3-horse is Private Treasure. Second by a neck in the Ashland Stakes. Still looking for her first win in 91. But she was second last year in the Breeders' Cup to the great Meadow Star. Corey Black has the mount. His mount earned over $4.8 million last year. Till Forbid is the 4-horse. Third in the Ashton, has been in the money in all 6 career starts. Has the services today of Craig Perrett, last year's Eclipse Award-winning rider. Next, we'll come to the 5-horse, even money. This is the hottest filly in the land. This is Lite Light of Oaktown Stable you just met. Won 3 straight, including the Fantasy, the Santa Anita Oaks, and Las Virgenes. With Corey Nakatani, she has been undefeated under him with 3 starts for Corey on Lite Light. Keeneland sale purchase, $35,000. Sweet Sarita is another Keeneland sales purchase. Sweet Sarita coming here off 2 straight wins, including a 4-length victory in the Oaks at Sportsman's Park. Been in the money 7 of 10 times. 13th, though, in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last fall. Carlos Lopez, regular New Jersey rider, has the assignment. Now we'll go to the 7-horse Risen Colony. Risen Colony, 5th in the Comely Stakes, has only a maiden win, really taking a big step up with Johnny Campo today, who has taken blinkers off this afternoon. Won the 87 Oaks, Jose Santos did on Barrier Belief for Las Brera. He has them out on Risen Colony this afternoon, the 7-horse at a big price. The 8-horse, second choice, with all probability, Keeneland, $635,000 purchase for trainer D. Wayne Lucas, owned by Ned Evans as Mr. Prospector filly. Second to Lite Light in the Fantasy Stakes for her first career loss. Pat Day has the assignment, just elected to the Racing Hall of Fame. His mounts have won over $100 million. He won this Kentucky Oaks in '88 with Goodbye Halo. Rounding out our field from Nick Zito's barn, Polish Holiday. This, a daughter of Danzig, second by a head in the Palisades at Keeneland after 2 straight allowance wins. Jerry Bailey has the ride. His mounts last year earned over $9.3 million. $250,000 added. First place, $207,285 for the Kentucky Oaks. Well, now to give us a little more of his handicapping expertise, we welcome back the editor-in-chief of the New Racing Times, Stephen Chris. Stephen, what are some of the key factors for the Kentucky Oaks this afternoon?
Looks to me like a 2-horse race, Chris. So Lite Light, who's the heavy favorite, and with all probability, Lite Light won last time, but I'm going to try to make it come out the other way today. I think there's a reason to do so. Last time out, with all probability, suffered her first loss. She was ridden kind of strangely. The jockey had his feet up in the dashboard. The whole race was restraining her. Today they're going to let her run free. I think she'll open up a lot easier than she did last time. Second thing is that jockey change involves a switch to Pat Day. Pat Day is no better than the jockeys who have been on her, but at Churchill Downs it always helps to have him. Finally, her trainer, D. Wayne Lucas in the Kentucky Oaks, is a winning combination. He's won the race 4 times in the last 9 years, including the last couple, and I think this is the race he's been pointing with probability for all along.
Racing Times looking for a change in the formula with all probability to beat Lite Light today. We'll look forward to seeing you and your entire team here tomorrow for Kentucky Derby Day.
And we all have a different horse in the Derby, so it'll be fun.
Thank you, Stephen, very much. Stephen Chris, the editor-in-chief of the New Racing Times. And by the way, it's been quite a hit here at Churchill Downs this weekend. We'll be back getting close to post time for the Oaks. Churchill Downs, the great Indiana basketball coach Bobby Knight in the box with D. Wayne Lucas. Got some more racing coming up for you on ESPN. A little bit different type, though, as on Sunday we invite you to join us for the NASCAR Winston 500 from the Talladega Super Speedway in Alabama, live on ESPN at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Here's our odds update with the fillies on the track for the 117th Kentucky Oaks. Garden Gal, if you could see me now, the entry at 4-1. Naley's Pin, big price. Private Treasure and Till for a bit, also big prices. Now Lite Light, even money favorite as she opens. Sweet Sarita, Risen Colony, big prices. Then, with all probability, second choice at 2-1. Rounding out the field, Polish Holiday at 25-1. So the fans figuring for their odds right now, trying to get ready to make their selection. I know what they're looking for, a Bud Long Shot.
Our Bud Long Shot is Sweet Sarita. As a 2-year-old, she showed promise running creditably in graded stakes races. Last July in the Astoria, she was beaten a mere length and a quarter by Meadow Star. She did run in the Breeders' Cup for juvenile fillies, but she ran like Chris Lincoln running uphill. She did not reappear thereafter until 111 days. And then she ran a good third this spring to an eventual Grade 1 winner. She's won 2 stakes races in a row, and her connections must love her. They've supplemented her today at a cost of $25,000. She's our Bud Long Shot. And if jockey Carlos Lopez and trainer Jorge Romero and the word long shot sound familiar, you're right. Remember Great Norman. Last year's Meadowlands Cup Grade 1 race paid $364 to win. These guys know long shots. And this afternoon, she's a big price, not quite 120-1, but you will get 22-1 on today's Bud Long Shot. Chris?
And I guarantee you those are better odds you get on me running uphill. Thank you, Mr. Durkin. And the crowd getting ready for the start of the Kentucky Oaks. Let's tell you what these fillies will be shooting at in terms of time. Talk about the records here for this historic race. The stakes record, the best time for the 1 1/8 here at Churchill Downs, 1:50 by Franz Valentine in 85. The track record over a 1 1/8 belongs to 2, and it's at 1:48-2. Los Olos in 59, Errol Flint in 1961. Dan Issel, some of your pre-race thoughts after you watched the fillies parade 3 in the paddock there.
Well, Chris, I really like Lite Light. We talked about her win in the fantasy and the fact that Wayne Lucas was upset with the ride he got with all probability. But right now, I think we're going to ask trainer Hollendorfer what his strategy might be in the Oaks today.
We're training a filly that has real good tactical speed. She's come from pretty far off the pace. She's laid up on the pace. She can be on the front end also if she has to be. I'm going to look to run a tactical race, and we'll keep an eye on Wayne's horse and all the others too.
And Chris, I think Lite Light will really like the added distance of the Oaks and the long stretch here at Churchill Downs. She looks like the one to beat to me.
Well, we're looking at a horse with a price here. You heard Tom Durkin talk about our Bud Long Shot. We've been kind of keeping an eye on one out of Nick Zito's barn. The 9 horse, the filly Polish Holiday. Oh, royally bred, a daughter of Danzig. Second by head, as we mentioned, at Keeneland in her stakes debut. She's really taking a step up today, Polish Holiday. And something interesting, she's also coming off the last 2 starts on the grass, now going to the dirt. We asked Nick Zito about the change for the filly.
That's the thing, you know, she broke a maiden at Gulfstream Park in fine fashion, came back, it was a tough race, then came back again and won a distance of ground on the dirt. Run a super race, beat a nice filly in there, and Bailey rides her well, and she looks like, you know, she's versatile, but she does look like she's a little better on the dirt.
Polish Holiday at 25-1. There you see Pat Day working on his helmet there as they start to load him up. There goes Garden Gal in. The favorite is Lite Light at 4-5. Tom Durkin, your thoughts as they load up here for the Oaks?
Well, as we've mentioned before on the show, Lucas apparently not too happy with the front-running, slow down the speed tactics of Craig Perret in the with all probabilities last race. So Pat Day gets the call. How good are his stats at Churchill Downs? He's won 14 riding titles, and he's won over 960-some races. He's the man for the horse. We'll see it with all probability is the horse for the course or not. This time, about 1 minute before post time, was referred to at Oaklawn as hammer time. Lite Light's odds just plunged with just a few minutes to go before post time. at 4-5 right now. She was at even money throughout most of the betting. And now, with all probability, goes into the starting gate. And another long shot, Polish Holiday, will move in. And the starter here at Churchill Downs, very quick on the trigger. When that horse is in, Tommy Wagner springs the latch. They're in for the Oaks. And they're off. And Private Treasures went to her knees at the start. She is now back last in the field. With all probability is coming out for the lead. Pat Day wants it, and he gets it. And with all probability makes the lead easily, opening up here by 3. Sweet Serena, the Bud long shots in between horses. Garden's Gal is tucked neatly along the inside. Long shot Polish Holiday is 3 wide going into the turn. If You Can See Me Now is running along in 6, as with all probability gets away from the field. Lite Light is settling in, but she's already a dozen lengths off the front runner. Then farther back, Risen Colony is there, 3 wide round the first turn, followed by Till Forbid, Naley's Pin, and after an eventful start, Private Treasure trails the field. The first quarter was very sharp, 22-4, and with all probability is out there winging. She is pouring it on early, opening up here by 8 or 9 lengths with 5 furlongs to run, though. And then Sweet Serena's racing second. Garden Gal toward the inside is racing in 3rd position. Polish Holiday on the outside 4th. Lite Light is now pinned down inside If You Could See Me Now. They are gaining on with all probability. A half in 46-4. So she got a bit of a breather down the backstretch. The field now rounding the far turn, gaining with every stride, and with all probability. There goes the Bud long shot. Sweet Serena with the bull rush. Garden Gal is right there. Lite Light moving into dramatic contention. She's coming now with her run 4 wide, gaining ground with every stride. If You Could See Me Now is just in behind. Horses at the inside, and Lite Light accelerates and pours it on now as they're coming down toward the final furlong, pouring it on and pulling away with all probability. Cannot stay with her. Then farther back, it's Garden Gal 3rd, and they're coming down inside the final furlong. Lite Light impressive here, now in front by 6. With all probability is a leg-weary second. Long shot Till Forbid 3rd. Lite Light does it again. Smashing fashion here. 148-4. I believe that's a new stakes record. And young Corey Nakatani is happy about that. He won it by 10. I think Till Forbid did get up for second. It's a photo for that. But Lite Light, most impressive. You can't touch this.
All right, Tom, and they hammered a Lite Light. What an impressive performance. And one of the keys there that I know Dwayne Lucas is looking for, he felt that with all probability it was held too much and waited for Lite Light in the fantasy. So obviously he told Pat Day, go running and see if they can catch you. And they did, as it didn't make any difference. Lite Light proved what a champion filly she is as she extends her winning streak to 4. And Lucas' stranglehold on the Oaks ends for 1991. Lite Light, unofficial winner at 148-4 of the Kentucky Oaks. What an impressive performance. And there they are, new flowers for the fillies this year. Of course, they're lilies for the fillies. And here's the top filly around, Lite Light. Well, there's the happy Burrell family celebrating in the winner's circle, as they have been pretty much since they've purchased this filly at the first of the year. 2/5 off the track record, 148-4 for the 1.25 miles here in the Kentucky Oaks, and that is a new stakes record. Remember, there have been 116 runnings before this. Lite Light's name goes in the book now as the stakes record holder for the Kentucky Oaks. The old mark was 150. As you see, Corey Nakatani on the scale, weighing in to make things official. And we will take a look now at Lite Light's brilliant performance here in the Oaks this afternoon. Here's Tom Durkin.
Pat Day set a brilliant first quarter, 22-4. But that second quarter got a bit of a breather. That second quarter went in 24 seconds flat. Very clever ride here by Pat Day, but there was nothing he was going to do that was going to defeat Lite Light this afternoon. Lite Light patiently ridden by Corey Nakatani. At one point, this filly was at least a dozen lengths off the lead. And Lite Light will come into contention right there in the black silks with the black and gold hat, about to move 4 wide as they come to the top of the stretch. Now 4th in your picture, and when she accelerates, she explodes. The Bud long shot, Sweet Serena, ranging up on the far outside 3 wide. Pat Day pretty patient at this point in the race, as a matter of fact, with all probability on the rail. But the horse on the far outside is Lite Light, and coming under a hand ride at this point by Corey Nakatani, and look at her go. Her legs are moving faster than MC Hammer ever did when he was dancing. With this victory, I would have to say this puts Lite Light at the very top of her division. She has now won 4 stakes in a row, 3 of them Grade 1s. She rightly deserves the status as America's leading 3-year-old filly, even over Meadow Star at this point. And a 20-year-old Corey Nakatani has got a lot to be happy about today. Chris?
Well, Tom, she was brilliant today, but I can hardly wait to see her lock up with Meadow Star. Remember, Meadow Star has not lost anybody of her gender. The last time they met was the Juvenile Cup Fillies. And Lite Light was beaten 26 3/4 lengths behind Meadow Star. They'll meet soon. There are the fillies getting the lilies. There they are, the official new flower for this Kentucky Oaks. We'll take a look at the official prices now as Corey Nakatani receives the lilies for Lite Light. 140-4, again, a new stakes record here in this 117th running of the Kentucky Oaks. 380, 260, and 260 with all probability was second. $2.80 and $3. And Till Forbid running third, 660. Let's give some credit to Carl Nasker. Remember him? That's right, the trainer of last year's Kentucky Derby winner, Unbridled. That filly was 45-1, finished third. Running down the rest of the field now, Naley's Pen was fourth. Risen Colony was fifth after a slow start for her. And finishing up the rest of the order here, Garden Gal 6th. If You Could See Me Now, running 7th. Polish Holiday 8th. Sweet Sarita, the Bud Longshot of Tom Durkin's 9th. And Private Treasure 10th. Dan Issel now with an interview after the Oaks.
Thank you, Chris. Corey Nakatani, were you concerned at all when, with all probability, had the big lead up the backside?
I really wasn't bothered by her going on to the lead like that. I figured it was kind of far for her to go that distance, so I just sat right behind the front runners like that, and when I asked her to go, she didn't. I just shook the reins at her, and she ran. I didn't even have to really ask her.
It looked like you just tapped her a couple of times, and it was basically a hand ride from there.
It was. It really was. She's a nice filly, and I just thank the Burrells for letting me ride her.
This is a track that hasn't been very fast this week, and yet you established a new stakes record.
Yeah, I seen that the track wasn't playing that fast, so I figured the speed would come back, so that's why I took her back like that, and look at her. She's just driving away, and she's just a nice filly.
Congratulations. Great ride.
Thank you much.
Back up to you, Chris.
Thank you. That puts a wrap on the Kentucky Oaks. Joining me now is Tom Durkin, and it's time for us now to look ahead, Tom, and that means tomorrow, of course, the 117th Run for the Roses. Let's take a look at the field, get some of your thoughts on the big race.
All right, well, we have 16 who will face the starter here tomorrow in this Run for the Roses Fly So Free. The morning line favorite drew the rail position. Some people think it's a disadvantage. I don't think so. That post position has won more than any other post position in the Kentucky Derby history.
The one they really groaned about in the draw the other day was Best Pal drawing way outside.
Well, he drew into the post position number 15. It's not all that bad because in post position number 15, that's part of the secondary starting gate, the auxiliary gate. There's no one actually to his inside, so it's not such a bad place to be.
All right, 16 set to Run for the Roses tomorrow. Dan Issel, your thoughts?
Lewis, you said if you won this race, you'd have a surprise for us.
Here's the surprise. See you in the Belmont.
All right. That is a surprise. Back up to you, Chris.
All right.
I believe he said going in the Belmont. Is that right? He says his filly Lite Light is going to run in the Belmont Stakes. That's 1.5 miles, the third leg of the Triple Crown. Tom Durkin?
This is a stunning development right now, biting off a lot to chew in that spot.
All right, let's take a look at what's ahead for us. We told you it's a 2-day affair for us here at Churchill Downs, and the big ones tomorrow live for 2 hours starting at 2:30. We'll have live coverage of 3 races leading to the Kentucky Derby. All the features and information to help you handicap the 117th Run for the Roses. But right now, Fly So Free, the juvenile champion, is the favorite. Hope you enjoyed our coverage of the 1991 Kentucky Oaks, won by the filly Lite Light and brought to you by Budweiser. Nothing beats the excitement of horse racing, and nothing beats a Bud. By General Motors, GM is putting quality on the road. By the Kentucky State Resort Parks, the nation's finest. By DeBartolo Racing, leading the way to the 21st century. And the Thoroughbred Racing Associations, assuring the highest racing standards. Ground transportation provided by Thrifty Car Rental. For reservations at over 700 locations worldwide, call Thrifty at 1-800-4CARS. Well, Lite Light is the star of the day before the Derby. She gallops to a victory in the Oaks. We'll see who'll be the star tomorrow for the Roses, the 117th Kentucky Derby. Join us tomorrow at 2:30 on ESPN. It's the day before the Derby here at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky. And today, for the 117th time, we contest the Distaff Derby as some of the nation's top 3-year-old fillies meet in the historic Kentucky Oaks. And hello again, everyone. I'm Chris Lincoln. Welcome here on ESPN to the start of our 2 days of Derby coverage on this 1991 year, the 117th Run for the Roses. We'll be here with 2 hours for you live tomorrow, starting at 2:30. Live coverage of 3 races leading up to the Kentucky Derby. Working with us today, Tom Durkin and Dan Issel. We have quite a race card for you. Let's take a look. It starts with the Early Times Turf Classic featuring the champion It's All Greek to Me. And, of course, the 9th race here, the Kentucky Oaks, the 117th meeting there. Let's take a look at the conditions now. The 3-year-old fillies tested at 1 1/8. The purse, $250,000 added. The weather, well, it's a bit on the cloudy side this afternoon. We have forecast, by the way, of possible rain on Derby Day tomorrow. But right now, a fast racetrack this afternoon. And joining me now, the man who will be calling the races for us this afternoon. He'll be here this fall for the Breeders' Cup at Churchill Downs. Tom Durkin, and, well, it's not Breeders' Cup we're thinking about now. It's the Classics.
Well, the Triple Crown with all its attendants.
They went together. Jerry Hollendorfer made that deal and helped put together the Lite Light purchase. And so, therefore, they felt they were somewhat obligated to let Jerry have it. And that's fine. He's done a real good job and everything. We have some other horses for them. So, you know, we're going to have a lot of fun and kidding in the paddock because I know him well and I know how they feel. But we're going to try to upset them. And maybe if we whip them enough, we'll get the filly.
Well, Wayne might be dreaming about having Lite Light in his barn, but for right now, she's firmly entrenched in the barn of trainer Jerry Hollendorfer. And right now, we're going to go back up to Chris.
And among the Twin Spires with the head man at Churchill Downs, President Tom Maker. Tom, looking around, the infield open for Oaks Day, and it looks like a record crowd. I understand the numbers are already up.
Well, we're considerably up after last year. I think we had about 65,000. This year we've got at least 75,000 here. We'll bet over $8 million. It's a record day for us, and I think it's a record day for racing. I mean, Churchill Downs provides sort of a focus for racing in the spring, and throughout the country with our inter-tracking and everything else that we're doing, it's racing is on the move again.
How about the projections for Derby Day? What if I want to get a ticket tomorrow?
Well, you're late. Chris, you might have a chance to get in, but no, we're sold out in terms of fixed seats, but of course
fame and fortune. Sometimes the 3-year-old division is referred to as racing's glamour division. Well, today we have the 3-year-old fillies going in the Oaks, and I suppose you could call them racing's glamour girls. For this year's division of 3-year-old fillies is fairly glamorous, and they're very talented. Headed by Meadow Star, the undefeated filly against fillies. She lost only once, and that was to Colts. We'll be seeing her a little bit later this month at Belmont Park. Today we're going to see 2 superior fillies. One is owned by music's king of rap, MC Hammer and his family, and the other is trained by Dwayne Lucas, who seems to win this race every year. And as a matter of fact, I think Dwayne can rap pretty well himself. Let's take a look at the field for the Oaks. Brian Mayberry sends out a pair of solid, proven graded stakes performers in Garden Gale, and if you could see me now, Naylee Finn will be one of the longest prices on the board. Private Treasure, second in last year's Breeders' Cup for Juvenile Fillies. Till Forbid will be a big price this afternoon. Lite Light, owned by MC Hammer and family. And if you'll forgive the pun, it's pretty hard to rap her record. She is the favorite today. Sweet Sarita will be a long price. Risen Colony, trained by the Damon Runyon-esque Johnny Campo. With all probability, she's won 4 of 5. She'll be the second choice today. Her only loss was to Lite Light.
Kentucky Derby, certainly the Oaks would be their second choice. That's the one they all want. And it's been good to us.
This year, Lucas's big gun is with all probability a daughter of Mr. Prospector. She won her first 4 in a row, all in handy fashion, including this romp over stablemate Fancy Ribbons in the Bonnie Miss at Gulfstream. But most recently, with all probability, was no match for Lite Light in the Fantasy at Oaklawn. But Lucas is looking for revenge in the Oaks.
Well, I think we'll reverse that. I really do. I like our horse, and we've had good luck upsetting the big ones here, too. We beat Devonna Dale here with Blush with Pride, and we beat Go for Juan last year with Seaside Attraction. I didn't like the trip in the Fantasy. I thought we really played into Lite Light's hands. We took way back off it, went a very slow half and even a worse 3/4. And then we tried to run through the stretch and play her game, and that's not our filly style. So I think with Pat Day and knowing the track like he does and knowing our filly, we'll get a realistic pace, and I think we'll look better.
And if Lucas's filly does improve, it figures to be at the expense of the Jerry Hollendorfer-trained Lite Light, owned by a group that also has horses in the Lucas barn.
Well, yes. You know, we have the Hammer Group, you know, that own Lite Light with MC and his brothers and his father. And
at Oaklawn and Polish Holiday. Nick Zito trains. He will tighten the girth on her this afternoon and tighten the girth on Strike the Gold in the Derby tomorrow.
All right, Tom, let's take a look now at the most famous racetrack in the world and the route for the fillies.
The route for the fillies has been run over this storied race course for 116 years. Pretty good run into that first turn, better than an eighth of a mile. First turn here at Churchill, by the way, is just a tad sharper than the second one. They continue their run down the backstretch. Today, the Oaks field will have to deal with the distraction of fans in the infield. This is the first time the infield has been open on Oaks Day. Then that top of the storied stretch here at Churchill Downs, 1,234 feet. Very long, sometimes referred to as Heartbreak Lane.
Well, let's start meeting now some of these leading ladies for our Kentucky Oaks, as we'll also meet our Kentucky horsemen. Down to the paddock now, Churchill Downs. Here's Dan Issel.
Thank you, Chris. You know, for about the last decade, the road to the winner's circle of the Kentucky Oaks has run right through the barn of D. Wayne Lucas. He's won this race 4 times in the last 9 runnings, including the last 2 years in a row. Whether he has the long shot or a favorite, the Oaks is a race that Lucas really points to.
It's a prestigious race. You know, if you really talk to the breeders in Kentucky, if they couldn't win the